Hello and welcome. It's time for the Star Car Faceoff. This is our bonus episode that we love to do, and it involves some pretty cool cars from fiction and movies and TV shows. And this time we've got a pair of cars from, actually a car and an SUV from some sci-fi TV shows. Ben, why don't you lay them out for me and we can get to talking about these cool cars.
So these are some cars you might not have really thought about in terms of being star cars, but they played very important roles in their respective TV shows. The first is the venerable Ford Taurus rental car. Most of the time it was a rental car from the X-Files, the 90s show about ghosts and UFOs and the paranormal. It was the most common ride that you would see Mulder and Scully driving around. And they also drove around Buick Centuries and occasional other rental car fare. But the Taurus was the old reliable. And this week, we are putting it up against something else that's pretty plain, but also maybe a little bit cooler. The 1980 Chevy K5 Blazer from Stranger Things, which is a modern take on the supernatural tales of sci-fi alternate dimension fun that came on Netflix, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago now. It's in its second season, but we're just going to focus on the first season with the Blazer. So, Sammy, let's throw this down now. We've got a Taurus, which was a sales juggernaut for Ford, but in rental car form was definitely one of the most boring vehicles ever to grace the streets up against the Blazer.
Why did we do this? The Taurus is a boring car with completely anonymous on the road. Okay. And I guess that's exactly what is necessary for a government conspiracy, show, right?
I guess so. I mean, also, it's a rental car, so it's not like the conspiracy wasn't you're going to get the worst car at the rental counter. It's like, let's look at the specs, though. Let's start out with the specs. Mulder and Scully we're going to look at the second generation Taurus, which was from 91 to 95. That's pretty much what they drove the most. And you could get a pair of underwhelming V6s in that vehicle. You could get a Taurus SHO, which they never drove.
So, how would you know, right? I guess, actually, the SHO is quite distinct with this.
Yeah, it says SHO on the bumper. It's hard to,
right.
It's hard to miss it.
But you don't think the government would have some special spec version of it?
No, and I'm going to stress again, Sammy, that these are rental cars, not government. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say that in this episode.
What makes you think that? Is that why they never go on in badass car chases? Because we denied the insurance on this. We gotta make sure.
Well, it's because they always fly somewhere and then drive out to where the spooky stuff's happening. They don't drive from DC to Oregon. It's not, I mean, I know you've never been an FBI agent. I was only an FBI agent for a couple of years, so I'm a little more familiar with it. But yeah, that's pretty much standard operating procedure.
I couldn't make it through the mental evaluation.
Or the firearms training. I mean, you kept pointing the gun at everybody and just screaming and crying.
I did that exactly. I still do that, to be honest.
So the base Taurus has 140 horsepower.
Not enough to go hunting for ghosts and aliens, right?
And I don't know how much horsepower the 3.8 liter had. I think it might have had less, even though it was larger. But it's pretty basic. But we're gonna look at the 350 that came in the K5 Blazer. We're gonna assume it's a 350 because you could get a straight 6 in that truck if you wanted to. But this is a police package vehicle, so I'm gonna think that the town in Stranger Things, they sprung at least for the 5.7 for a V8 car, and I think it was right around 200 horsepower. Sammy, is that right?
That sounds about right. But aren't Are horsepowers from the 1980 different than yeah. Are they different than the horsepowers from the 1990s?
Actually, you know what? I'm looking at the numbers now, and they're different in terms of their SAE rating is different. That's irrelevant for this conversation. From 81 to 86, the 350 had 160 horsepower.
Oh, that's so poor.
But from 73 to 86. It also had 175 horsepower, so I think that might be depending on whether it had a 2-barrel or a 4-barrel carburetor. So let's split the difference and say it had 170 horsepower. So it's got a 30 horsepower advantage on the Taurus, but it has a 1,000-pound weight disadvantage.
And aerodynamics. You forgot how aerodynamic the Taurus was.
That's true. That's a very good point. But also in favor of the truck, the K5 Blazer, it's got 4-wheel drive and it's a convertible.
All right.
You could pop that top off.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's what the K5 name meant.
But not in the movie. I mean, in the show. He didn't do that at all in the show.
No, he didn't, because he was a serious man doing cop work.
No, it didn't have a drop top in the show, did it?
No, that any Blazer from that era up until the 90s, you could remove the top. It's fiberglass. It comes off. Broncos are the same. Ram Chargers are the same. You just pop it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Did I just blow your mind?
No, I'm just thinking about a police package convertible and if those things exist or not.
Well, they do now. Stranger Things. Here it is.
It is a strange thing. Okay, which one of these is best equipped for hunting down the paranormal?
Well, it depends. I mean, is the paranormal in the woods? Because it kind of was in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
But they never really went off-roading with the truck.
No.
So I don't know if they used it to its full capacity.
Okay, so but it's a pretty rugged vehicle. I mean, that's the thing you want, and people will get out of the way when you're in hot pursuit of, I guess, I don't know, aliens and monsters. Right?
But if the paranormal is right near the rental counter,
yeah.
then advantage Taurus.
Or if you need to escape from the paranormal, which I think is the more, I mean, and blend in with the general crowd on the highway, on the streets. That's where the Taurus really shines, right?
I guess
and
so.
If you want to save gas.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
does that ever occur in...
You could outrun the paranormal for longer in the Taurus, unless there's like an off-road obstacle in your way.
And then you're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, so what about importance to the show? Like, we saw the Taurus a lot in X-Files. I mean, they were almost always driving a Taurus, like all the time.
Or they're doing like stakeouts.
Yeah, hanging out in a Taurus, or like the UFOs hovering above the Taurus and hitting them with a bright light and stuff. But in Stranger Things, it kind of felt like the truck was more the personality of the sheriff than it was necessary for the show. Like, I don't think the truck ever did anything that, you know, it only it could do to advance the plot.
Right.
I mean, did you ever see Stranger Things? Am I the only one who's seen it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
Everyone saw it. It was a very popular show. Both seasons, too. And there's a third one coming, like, July this year.
I'm not interested in the future, Sammy. I'm interested in the past, specifically the first season and the vehicle that we're talking about.
All right. Now,
so which do you think is more important?
Well, I think they spent way more time in the Taurus in the X-Files. Of course, though, there's so many more episodes of X-Files. Is that even comparable?
I think so. I mean, I don't think we should penalize it just because, you know, there were probably conservatively 6 times as many episodes.
I think it's better. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. Is the truth out there?
Don't worry about it.
Okay. I think that the X-Files Taurus is more important. We saw it on screen more often. The characters were interacting with it more often, and therefore it had a better it had a life of its own kind of on the show.
It definitely had a better agent.
Yes. Yes. But there is actually kind of something really weird. Did you ever notice this about the X-Files movie, is that there were no Tauruses and there were Oldsmobiles instead?
Yeah, so I don't know why you're bringing this up now. but
why?
But yeah, so Oldsmobile, which is a company we've always associated with spooky paranormal activity, decided it would be great to team up with the X-Files for the movie as like a promotional thing. And they created this whole like...
They got good agents, man.
Yeah, they had agents for agents, right? And they gave them an Intrigue, which was, I believe at that time, was what... was the Aurora or the Intrigue the one with the V8?
Aurora, I think.
Okay, so this is like it's a sleeker, sexier looking car than the Taurus. It's not something you would rent, really, I don't think.
No.
But they had all sorts of like media appearances with the car. They had a whole campaign where you could go on tour to alternative quote unquote venues like decommissioned military bases and airplane hangars in the United States, and they would do events like related to the Oldsmobile Intrigue. And yeah, and there were TV commercials where spooky stuff would happen while the Intrigue was on the screen. It was a real effort, and you know what? I think it had zero impact on Intrigue sales. Like, I've never met anyone who was like, "Yeah, I'm a big X-Files fan. That's why I own 3 Intrigues." Like, no one.
Okay.
And they also had a website. It was intriguecar.com. And if you go to it now, it's entirely in Chinese with a pink background. And I don't know what it says. And I'm scared to click on any of the links.
I want to talk to you about the...
Oh, intriguecar/dog.html is one of the links. And there's no pictures. So I don't know what's going on. I think I just got a virus.
Is that what that noise was earlier?
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the X-Files. The X-Files is a pretty spooky show, and watching it can give some people a bit of I don't know how to call it, like shell shock. And for example, my fiance, she doesn't like the show at all. In fact, the opening scene, the opening musical score gives her the creeps, and she just doesn't want to watch the show. Now, if they put this Oldsmobile around this creepy situation all the time, maybe that's what caused the sales to be so poor.
Are you saying that this tie-in with the X-Files is what killed the brand?
Maybe. I'm suggesting it, yes.
It certainly didn't save it. So
that's true.
You know what's funny about the theme song? It is very spooky, and it was written by a man named Mark Snow, and I was listening to an interview with him one time.
And he was doing it in the back of a Taurus.
No, he was saying that they asked him if there were lyrics to the song, because the original Star Trek theme has lyrics, right? Mm-hmm. From the 60s. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, they just didn't use them in the show. But Mark Snell's like, yeah, he's like, it definitely has lyrics. And they're like, what are they? And he's like, The X-Files is a show with music by Mark Snow. So those are the lyrics to the X-Files theme song.
I could listen to that in the car. What car would be better to listen to the theme song in?
Well, I have actually...
Oh, you don't want to answer this question?
No, I'm going to move on. But I was thinking, could the cars switch places, Sammy? If you were to put the K5 Blazer and give it to Mulder and Scully, would they have been able to track down the government conspiracy that they eventually never really quite solved and got really kind of murky?
Oh, man, that last season was so bad.
It's garbage. Don't watch past the 6th season. There's no need.
I think that's a good call. I think... To be honest, I think if they had a K5 Blazer, things would go much better for them. I mean, think about all the stakeouts they'd have. If they had all the space that's available in a Blazer, as opposed to some dingy, probably poorly maintained rental Taurus, they'd probably get their job done. And to be able to be awake and notice that there are no aliens, right, Ben?
Wow. That's a bold statement. I think that you're probably right because, Mulder didn't have a bed in his apartment.
Yeah.
And he could sleep in the Blazer. I mean, it's perfect.
Exactly.
It's harder to sleep in a Taurus. I mean, it's not impossible, but I think that the Blazer would be a better choice. But in Stranger Things, the Taurus didn't really exist.
Yeah, if they showed up with a 1990, I don't know, 1 or 2 Taurus, things would be really strange.
Because I think that the original Taurus came out in '86, right? That was the first one. So I don't remember the exact year for Stranger Things, but I think it was like maybe around 85, 86.
Yeah.
But I would be surprised if it was later than that. So I think the question would be, if they had that car on that show, how did this podunk town get such a budget where they were able to buy this like brand new Taurus?
Exactly. So what you're saying is it wouldn't work. It just couldn't be done.
What I'm saying is the show would be more focused on corruption.
Yes, and not sci-fi dealings with the upside down.
No. So if you had to pick a winner, Sammy, which would it be? I mean,
easily the K5 Blazer.
Wow.
Wait. Yes. I mean, like I said, if everybody in all of these, I mean, the K5 Blazer was a better vehicle, but it just didn't get the showtime or the performance that it deserved in these shows. So what I'm trying to it's a very tough balancing act to make. It had more power, it was more capable. It's a cooler looking truck. Chief Hopper doesn't really take advantage of any of these elements of the truck. So that's a pretty significant mark against it. And I think if it was in the X-Files, it would be better. The show would be better. Does that make sense?
I think you're right. I think that you could put that Blazer in almost any show and improve it.
Yeah, 100%.
But the Taurus doesn't necessarily raise the bar for... I mean, if you put the Taurus in Knight Rider, people would probably not have watched.
But the Taurus was reliable. It was always there for them, with the exception of the movie when it was an Oldsmobile.
That's true. You know what? And that's kind of not cool because the X-Files didn't return that loyalty.
Yeah, exactly.
But shout out to there's a couple of other weird facts. Mulder used a gun called the Taurus PT-92 as his weapon, in a number of episodes. Actually, only in the first season, but a few different episodes in the first season. So that's a little bit of synergy, cross-brand synergy. He used it in 6 episodes. But there's a few other vehicles that they drove. As we mentioned before, they drove a Buick Century, a Mercury Sable, which is the rental car equivalent of twinning, and the Oldsmobile Cutlass.
How would anyone point that out? Oh, that's a Mercury instead of a Taurus. They're the same car.
But it has a different, remember the Mercury had that front grille that was like a light and it lit up in the front?
Oh, right. That weird Cyclops look.
Yeah. So they also
drove totally perfect for the X-Files.
And they had an Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra that they would drive from time to time as well, as time went on. There were a few more Crown Victorias too. I think like later on, like when they were driving actual government issued stuff, that would be the Crown Victoria stuff. But it's pretty much what you'd expect from a show about government agents who don't own a personal car of their own, or if they do, we never find out what it was.
That makes sense. I love doing these Star Car Face-Offs. They're so much fun. If you enjoyed that, be sure to subscribe to the Unnamed Automotive Podcast, where you can listen to our regular weekly podcast about, production cars and not fake ones. Except for that time you did the Ultima with tracks. That was the last episode.
I mean, that's totally not a fake car. I actually drove it. It does exist.
But it's not like we can buy it.
I guess not.
Anyways, go to our website, unnamedautomotivepodcast.com. Hit the subscribe button on whatever podcast client you like to use, and be sure to check out all of the photos and the links to the cars that we've been testing out, because we would appreciate it if you checked out our content in all of the various forms all over the internet. Right, Ben?
And if you want to get a hold of us, you can do that on social media. You can get a hold of Sammy on Twitter at Sammy_ha. Like you're laughing. You can suggest to him future Star Cars you would like us to compare or not compare, or Star Cars that you think are too precious to ever be compared to anything else. You can also get me on Instagram at HuntingBenjamin, or you can email me, benjamin@benjaminhunting.com.
And that's it, right? That's all we usually do. That's how we usually sign off each episode.
So tune in for next week. We'll have a regularly scheduled, normal, non-bonus episode for you, and thank you for listening.
Bye.